Hello friends, welcome back. My name is Rensi Sangani and today we will continue our story. So let's we start. Our voice was shaky with laughter. Why don't you go to bed? Is the whole world going to change for you? Change yourself. Be rid of the mosquitoes' consciousness. Meekly, I returned to my bed. Not one insect ventured near. I realized that my guru had previously agreed to the cuteness only to please me. He had no fear of mosquitoes. By yogic power, he could prevent them from beating him, or if he chose, he could expect to an inner invisibility. He was giving me a demonstration. I thought that is the yogic state I must strive to attain. A true yogi is able to pass into and maintain the superconscious state, regardless of multitudinous distractions never absent from this earth. The abuse of insects, the perceptive glare of daylight. In the first state of samadhi, the devotees shut off all sensory testimony of the outer world. He is rewarded then by sound and scenes of inner realms fairer than the precise Eden. The instructive mosquitoes served for another early lesson at the ashram. It was the gentle hour of dusk. My guru was maturely interpreting the ancient texts. At his feet, I was in perfect peace. A rude mosquitoes entered the ID and complained for my attention. As it dug poisonous hypodermic needle into my thigh, I automatically raised an availing hand, reparative from impending executions. An opportune memory had come to me of Patanjali's aphorism of on ahimsa. Why didn't you finish the job, Master? Do you advocate talking life? No, but in your mind you had already struck the death blow. I don't understand. By ahimsa, Patanjali meant removal of the desire to kill. Sri Yukteswar had found my mental processes an open book. This word is inconveniently arranged for a literal practice of ahimsa. Man may be completed to exterminated harmful creators. He is not under a similar compulsion to feel anger or animosity. All forms of life have an equal right to the air of Maya. The son who uncovers the secret of creation will be in harmony with nature's countless bewildering expressions. All men may understand this truth by overcoming the passion for destruction. Guruji, should one offer himself a sacrifice rather than kill a wild beast? No man's body no man's body is precious. It has the highest evolutionary because of a unique brain and a spinal center. These enable the advanced devoted fully to grasp and express the loftiest man increase the loftiest aspect of divinity. No lower form is so equipped. It is true that man incurs the debate of a minor sin if he is forced to kill an animal or any other living thing. But the holy shastras teach that Vento's loss of a human body is a serious transaction against the karmic law. I signed in relief. Spiritual reinforcement of one's natural instincts is not always forthcoming. Master, so far as I know, was never at close quarters with a leopard or a tiger, but a deadly cobra once confronted him, only to be converted by his love. The encounter took place in Puri, where my guru had a seaside hermitage. Uh, Prafula, a young disciple of Sri Yukteswar's later years, was with master on this occasion. We were seated outdoors near the ashram. Prafulla told me a cobra, a cobra appeared nearby, a 4 foot length or of Sri Titor. Its hood was angrily expanded as it raced towards us. Master gave a welcoming chuckle as thought to a child. I was filled with consternations to see Sir Yukteswarji engaged in arithmetical clapping of hands. He was entertaining the dared visitor. I remained completely quiet, inwardly executing fervent prayers. The parent, very close to Master, was now motionless, uh, seemingly seemingly menaced by his gracing attitude. The the frightful hood greatly contracted. The snake slithered between Sri Yukteswarji's feet and disappeared into the bushes. Why Masters would move his hand and why the cobra would not strike them were inexplicable to me. Then Perfula concluded, I have since come to realize that our divine Guru is beyond fear of hurt from any creature. One afternoon during my early months at the ashram, I found Sri Yukteswar's eyes fixed on me piercingly. You are too thin, Mukunda. His remark struck a sensitive point. My sunken eyes and emaciated appearances were not to my liking. Jornian's dyspepsia had afflicted me since childhood. Many bottles of tonics stood on a shelf in my room at home. None had helped me. Occasionally, I would sadly ask myself if life were worthwhile with a body so unsound. Medicines have limitations. The divine creative life force has none. Believe that you shall be well and strong. Master's words instantly convinced me that I could successfully apply their truth in my own life. No other hellier had been able to arouse in me such profound faith. Day by day, I waxed in health and strength. Through Sri Yukteswar's hidden blessings, in 2 weeks I gained the weight that I had vainly sought in the past. My stomach ailments vanished permanently. On later occasions, I was privileged to witness my Guru's divine healings of persons suffering from diabetes, epilepsy, tuberculosis, or paralysis. Years ago, I too was excusing to put on weight. Master told me shortly after he had hailed me. During conversations after a survey lines is I visit Lahiri Mahashayas in Banaras. Sir, I said, I have been very sick and have lost many pounds. I see Yukteswar, you made yourself unwell, and now you are thin. This reply was far from the one I had expected. My Guru, however, added encouragingly, let me see, I am sure you ought to feel better tomorrow. My respective mind accepted his words as a hint that he was secretly healing me. The next morning, I sought him out and exclaimed exultingly, Sir, I feel much better today. Indeed, today you invigorate yourself. No, Master, I protested. It is you who have helped me in this is the first time in weeks that I have had any energy. Oh yes, your malady has been quite serious. Your body is frail yet. Who can say how it will be tomorrow? The thought of a possible return of my weakness brought me a shudder of cold fear. The following morning, I could hardly drag myself to Lahiri Mahashaya's home. Sir, I am aligning again. My Guru's glance was a quizzical. So once more, you indispense yourself. My patience was exhausted. Gurudeva, I said, I realized now that day by day you have been reducing me. I don't understand why you disbelieve my truthful reports. Really, it has been your thoughts that have made you feel alternately weak and strong. My guru looked at me efficiently. You have seen how your health has actually followed your subconscious expectations. Uh, thought is thought is a force, even as electricity or graviations. The human mind is a spark of the ultimately and almighty consciousness of God. I could show you that whatever you powerful mind believes very instantly would instantly come to pass. Knowing that Lahiri Mahashayas never spoke idly, I addressed him with great you and gratitude. Master, if I think that I am well and that I have regained my former weight, shall those things come to pass? It is so. Even at this moment, my guru spoke gravely. His gaze concentrated on my eyes. I initially felt an increase not only of strength but of weight. Lahiri Mahashayas retreated into silence after a few hours at his feet. I returned to my mother's house where I stayed during my visits to Banaras. My son, what is the matter? Are you swelling with dropsy? Mother could hardly believe her eyes. My body was now as full and robust as it had been before my illness. I weighed myself and found that in one day I had gained 50 pounds. Uh, they have remained permanently friends and acquaintances who had seen my thin figure were overcome with amazement. A number of them changed their mode of life and became disciplines of Lahiri Mahashayas as a result of this miracle. My Guru, awake in God, knew this word to be nothing but an objective dream of the creator. Because he was completely aware of his unity with the divine dreamer. Lahiri Mahashayas could materialized or dematerialized or make any other change he wished in the dream atoms of the phenomenal world. All creation is governed by law. Sri Yukteswar's conclude. The principle, the operator operate in the outer universe discoverable by scientists are called natural laws, but there are subtler laws that rule the hidden spiritual plans and the inner realm of consciousness. These principles are knowable throughout the science of yoga. It is not the physicist but the self realized master who comprehends the true nature of matter. By such knowledge, Christ was able to restore the servant's ear after it had been served by one of the disciples. My guru was a peerless interpreter of the spirituals. Many of my happiest memories are centered in his discourses, but his jeweled thoughts were not cast into the ashes of helplessness or stupidity. One restless movement of my body or my slight lapse into abstinence would suffice to put an appropriate period to master's expositions. You are not here. Sri Yukteswar interpreted himself one afternoon with these observations. As usual, he was keeping relentless track of my attentions. Guruji, my tone was a protest. I have not strayed. My eyelids have not moved. I can repeat each word you have uttered. Uh, never, nevertheless, nevertheless, you were not fully with me. Your objections forced me to remark that in your mental background, you were creating three institutions. One was Slyvan retreated on a plain, another on a hilltop, and still another by the ocean. Was vaguely formulated thoughts had uh, indeed been present almost subconsciously. I glanced at him apologetically. What can I do with such a master? One, uh, one who one who can trust my random musics, my random musics. You have given me that right. The stable trust I am expounding cannot be graced without your complete concentrations. Unless necessarily, I do not invade the selections of others' mind. Man has the natural privileges of roaming strictly among his thoughts. The unbidden Lord does not enter there, neither do I venture instructions. You are ever welcome. You are ever welcome, Master. Your your architectural dreams will materialize later. Now is the time for study. Uh, thus, thus, incidentally, in his simple way, my guru revealed his knowledge of the coming of three important events in my life. Since early youth, I had enigmatic glimpse of three buildings, each in a different cities. In the exact sequences, Sri Yukteswar had indicated this vision took ultimate from. First came my founding of a boys' yoga school on a plain in Ranchi. Then an America headquarters on a Los Angeles hilltop, and then a hermitage in Encinitas, California, overlooking the West Pacific. A master never arrogantly said, "I, I prophesy that such and such an event shall occur." He would rather hint, "Don't you think it may happen?" But his simple speech hid wet power. There was no resenting. Never did his slightly valid predictions prove false. Sri Yukteswar was reserved and matter of fact in a demonier. There was not of the vigor of or draft visionary about him. His feet were a frame of the earth, his head in the heaven of heaven. Practical people aroused his admirations. Centralized is not dumbness. Divine perceptions are not incapacitating, he would say. The active expression of virtue gives rise to the caste intelligence. My guru was reluctant to discuss the superphysical realms. His only marvelous aura was that or a perfect simplicity. In conversation, he avoided startling references. In action, he was freely expressive and expressive. Many teachers talk of miracles but could manifest nothing. Sri Yukteswar seldom mentioned the subtle laws but secretly operated them at will. A man of realization does not perform any miracle until he received he he receives an inbound sections. Master explained, God does not wish the secret of his creation revealed promiscuously. Also, every individual in the world has an inalienable right to his free will. A sant will not encourage, encourage on the independence. The silence habitual or to Sri Yukteswar was caused by his deep perceptions of the infinite. No time remained for the interminable revenge that occupy the days of teachers without self-realization. A saying from the Hindu spirituals and scriptures is, "In shallow man, the fish of little thoughts cause much commotion. In occasions, mind the wells of inspirations make a hardly refill." Because of my guru's unspectacular guys, only a few of his countermarians recognized him as a superman. The adage, "He is a fool that cannot conceal his wisdom," could never be applied to my profound and quiet master. Thought drawn, a mortal like all other, Sri Yukteswar achieved identity with the ruler of time and space. Master found no inspirable obstacle to the measurements and to the mergence of a human and divine. No such barriers exist. I came to understand, save in man's spiritual undergrounds. I always thrilled at the touch of Sri Yukteswar's holy feet. Discipline is spiritually managed by reverent contact with a masters. A subtle current is generated. The devotees underestimate and undescribable habit habit mechanism in the brain are often as is capturized. The grooves of his worldly tendons are beneficially distributed. Momentarily, at least he may find the secret village of Maya lifting and glimpse the reality of bliss. My whole body responded with a liberating glow whenever I knelt in the Indian fashion before my Guru. Even when Lahiri Mahashayas was silent, Master told me, or when he conserved and conversed on other than strictly realized and religious topics, I discovered that nonetheless he had transmitted to me ineffable knowledge. Sri Yukteswar affected me similarly. If I entered the hermitage in a worried, indifferent frame of mind, my attitude imperceptibly changed. A hailing calm descended at the merry sight of my Guru. Each day with him was a new experience in joy, peace, and wisdom. Never did I find him deluded or emotionally intoxicated with greed, anger, or human attachment. The darkness of Maya is silently approaching. Let us hie homeward within. With this cautionary words, Master constantly remind his disciplines of their need of Kriya Yoga. A new student occasionally experts doubts regarding his own worthiness of engaged in yoga practice. Forget the past. Sri Yukteswar would console him. The vanished lives of all men are drought. All men are dark with many shames. Human conduct is never unreadable until man is entered in the divine. Everything in future will improve if you are making a spiritual efforts now. Master always had young children, disciples in his ashram. Their intellectual and spiritual education was his lifelong interest. Even shortly before he passed on, he as a hermitage recents 2 6-year-old boys and a youth of 16. All those in his charge were carefully trained dis, uh, discipline and disciplines are etymologically and particularly related. The ashram recites loved and revered their guru. A slight clap of his hands sufficed to bring them early to his side. When his mood was silent and withdrawn, no one ventured to speak. When his laugh rang jovially, children looked upon him as their own. Sir Yukteswar seldom asked other to render him a personal service, nor would he expect a chela's help unless it was offered cheerfully. Master himself would wash in clothes if the disciplines forget the privileged task. His usual garments was the traditional ochre-colored Swami robe. For Indore use he traditional and Indore use he wore legless shoes that had been made in accordance with the yogi custom of tiger or deer skin. Sri Yukteswar spoke fluent English, French, Bengali, and Hindi. His Sanskrit was very fair. He he potentially he he potentially instructed his young disciples by certain shortcuts that he had ingeniously devised for the study of English and Sanskrit. Master was not solely attached to his body, but he was a casuist of it. The divine, he pointed out, is properly is properly manifest through physical and mental soundness. He discounted all extremes to disciplines who wanted to fast for a long period. My guru said laughingly, "Why not throat? The dog were born." Sir Yukteswar's health was excellent. I never saw him unwell. To show respect for a worldly custom, he permitted his students, if they wished, to consult doctor. It's psychiatricians, he said, should carry on their work of healing throat God's laws as applied to matter. But he extolled the superiority of mental therapy and often repeated, "Wisdom is the greatest cleanser," he told his chelas. The body is a teacher's friend, give it its due, no more. Pain and pleasure are a transitory. Endure all duties with calmness, trying at the same time to remove yourself beyond their power. Imagination is the door through which the disease as well as healing and rest. Disbelieves in the reality of sickness when even when you are ill, an unrecognized visitor will flee. Master knew many doctors among his disciples, those who have a stupid and studies philosophically and psychology should go further and investigate the science of the soul. He told them a subtle spiritual structure is hidden just behind the bodily mechanism. Sir Yukteswar considered his student to be living illusions of Western and Eastern virtues. Himself as an executive occidental in outer habits, inwardly he was the spiritual oriental. He praised the progressive, resourceful, and hygienic ways of the West and the religious ideal that give a centralized halo to the East. Disciplines had not been unknown to me. At home, father was strict. Ananta often served, but Sri Yukteswar's training may not be described as other than drastic. Perfectionist. My guru was hypothetically of of his disciplines, whatever in matters of a movement or in the stubble nuisance of ordinary behavior. God, God manners without sensitivity are like a beautiful dead lady. He remarked on situable occasions, straightforwardness without clivity is like a surgeon's knife, effective but unpleasant candor with courtesy is helpful and admirable. Master was appreciably satisfied with my spiritual progress, for they seldom referred to it. In other matters, my ears were not a stranger to reproof. My chief offenses were abstinence, intermediate, including in sad mood, non-observance of certain rules of equated and occasions unmethodological ways. Observe how the activities of your father Bhagavati are well organized and well balanced. My guru pointed out the two disciplines of Lahiri Masters had met. Soon after my first visit to the Serampore Hermitage, father and master deeply admired each other. Had uh, both had built a beautiful inner life on foundations of spiritual grains insoluble against the ages. From uh, transient teacher of my earlier life, I had imbibed a few erroneous lesson. A chela, I had been told, need not concern himself strenuously with worldly duties. When I had neglected or carelessly performed my task, I had not been chastised. Human nature finds such instruction very easy of assimilations under master's unsparing rule. However, I soon recovered from the agreeable delusions of irresponsibility. Those who are too good for these words are enduring. Some other, Sri Yukteswar remarked one day. So long as you breathe the free air of earth, you are under obligations to render grateful service. Only he who has fully mastered the breathless state is freed from cosmic imperatives. He added dryly, I shall not fail to let you know when you have attained and the final perfections. My Guru could not be bewildered. Even by love, he showed no leniency to anyone who, like myself, had vainly offered to become a discipline, whatever master and I were surrounded by these students of or by strangers or were alone together. He always spoke plainly and unbearable sharply. No trifling lapse into shallowness or inconsistency expected his rebuke. This flatteringly to the ego treatment was hard to endure, but my unchangeable resolve was to allow Sri Yukteswars to iron iron out all of my psychological needs. As he labored at these titanic transformations, I shook many times under the weight of his disciplinary hammer. If you don't like my words, you are at a laboratory to leave at any time. Master assured me, I want nothing from you but your own improvement. Stay only if you feel benefited. I am immeasurably grateful for the humbling blows he dealt my vanity. I sometimes felt that metaphorically he was discovering and uprooting every decided tooth in my jaw. The hardcore of egotism is difficult to disclose, except rudely. With its departure, the divine finds at last and at least an un, unobstructed, unobstructed channel in when it seeks to pricked throat flintly hearts of a selfishness. Sri Yukteswar's intuitions was penetrating, heedless of remarks. He often replied to one's unexpressed thoughts, the words a person uses, and the actual thoughts behind them may be poles apart by calmness. My guru said, try to feel the thoughts behind the confusions of man's verbiage. The disclosures of divine insight are often painful to worldly ears. Masters was not popular with a superficial student. The wise, always few in number, deeply revered him. I dare say Sri Yukteswar would have been the most sought after Guru in India had his speech not been so candid and so censorious. I am hard on those who come for my training, he admitted to me. That is my way. Take it or leave it. I never compromise, but you will be much kinder to your disciplines. That is your way. I try to I try to purify only in fires of servantry. These are searing beyond the average toleration. The gentle approaches of love is also a transferring. The inflexible and the yielding methods are equally effective if applied with wisdom. He added, "You will go foreign lands where built assailants on the ego are not appreciated. A teacher could not spread India's message in the West without an ample fund of accommodative patience and forbearance. It's I refuse to say how often in America I have remembered master's words. Thought my guru's undissemblingly speech prevented a large following during his years on earth. Nevertheless, throughout an ever-growing number of Sankrisis students of his teachings, his spirit lives on in the world today. Uh, Virus like Alexander and the Greek seek sovereignty over the soul. Master like Sri Yukteswar's win the father dominion in man's soul. It was master practice to point out the simple, negligible shortcomings of his disciplines with an air of Protentians gravity. One day, my father visited Sharampur of Pay. He is respected to Sri Yukteswar's. My parent expected very likely to hear some words in my praise. He was shocked to be given a long account of my imperfections. Uh, imperfections. He rushed to see me. From your Guru's remarks, I thought to find you a complete work. My parent was between tears and laughter. The only cause of Sri Yukteswar's displeasure at the time was that I had been trying against, and his gentle hint to convert a certain man to the spiritual path. With indignant speed, I sought out my Guru. He received me with downcast eyes, as thought confusions of guilt. It was the only time I ever saw the divine lion make before me. The unique moments was severian to the full. Sir, why did you judge me so maliciously before my absent father? Was that just? I will not do it again. Sri Yukteswar's tone was apologetic. Instantly, I was disarmed. How rarely had the great man admitted a fault. Thought he never again upset father's peace of mind. Master relentlessly continued to distrust me whenever he chose. Now disciplines often joined Sri Yukteswars in executive criticisms of others, wise like the Guru, models of flawless discriminations, but he who takes the offensive should not be defenseless. The the carping students themselves fled preferentially as soon as master publicly unloosed in their direction a few shafts from his analytical foveer. Tender inner weakness, revolting at mild touches of censure, are like the dissociates part of the body. Recalling before even delicate handling, this was Sri Yukteswar's abused comments on the flight once. Many disciplines have a preconceived image of a guru by which they judge his words and actions. Such person often complained that they did not understand Sri Yukteswar. Neither do you understand God. I I retrolled one I retrolled on one occasions of if a sant were clever to you, you would be one among the trillion maestresses breathing every second, and the inexplicable, inexplicable air. May one venture to ask that the fathomless nature of a master be instantly gratified. Student come and generally went. Those who craved an easy path, that of instant sympathy and conforming recognitions of one's meritorious, did not find it, and at the Hermitage, Master offered his disciplines shelter and shepherding of the annuance. But many students misery demanded ego blame as well. They departed, perfuming before any humility. Life's countless humiliations, Sri Yukteswar's blazing errors, the often penetrating sunshine of his wisdom, were too powerful for their spiritual sickness. They sought out comes lesser teacher, who shading them with flattery permitted the fitful slip of ignorance. During my early months with masters, I experienced sensitive fear of his reprimands. I soon saw that his verbal vivisections were performed only on persons who, like myself, had asked him to discipline them. If any writing students made a protest, Sri Yukteswar's unoffended would fall into silence. His words were never worthful but impersonal with wisdom. Master's rebukes were not aimed at a casual visitor. He seldom remarked on their defects, even if conspicuous, but towards students who sought his counsel. Sri Yukteswar felt a serious responsibilities. Brave indeed is the Guru who undertakes to transform the crude or of ego permitted humanity. A son's courage is rooted in his in his compassion for Maya, beloved men, the stumbling eyeless of the world. After I had abandoned underrealing, underrealing resettlements, I found a marked decrease in my catchment in a very stable way, master meld into a comparative clemency. In time, I demolished every wall of rationalizations and subconscious reservations behind which the human personality generally shelled itself. The rebound was an effortless harmony with my Guru. I discovered him then to be trusting, considerate, and slightly loving, uh, undemonstrating. However, he bestowed no word of affections. My own temperament it is principally devotional. It was disconcerting at first to find that my Guru, uh, saturated with jhana but seemingly dry of bhakti, expressed himself chiefly in terms of cold spiritual mathematics. But as I attuned myself to his nature, I discovered no dimensions, but rather an increase in my devotional approach to God. A self realized master is fully able to guide his various disciplines along the natural lines of their essential base. My relationship with Yukteswars was somewhat uh, incredulous, yet possesses a hidden eloquence. Often I found his silent signature on my thoughts, rendering speech intituled. Quietly sitting beside him, I would feel his bounty pouring peacefully over my being. Master's impartial justice was notably demonstrated during the summer vacation of my first college year. I had been looking un- forward to uninterpreted months in Serampore with my Guru. You may be in charge of the hermitage. Sri Yukteswar was praised over my enthusiastic arrival. Your duties will be the receptions of guests and supervision of the work of the other disciplines. Kumar, a young villager from East Bengal, was expected a fortnight later for ashram training. Remarkably intelligent, he quickly won Master's affections for some unfathomable reason. Sri Yukteswar adopted an uncritical attitude toward the new residents. Muktanand, uh, Mukunda, let Kumar assume your duties, employing your own time in sweeping and cooking. Master issued that instructions after the new body had been with us for a month. Excited to leadership, Kumar exercised a pretty household training in silent immunity. The other disciplines continued to seek me out for daily consultation. These situations continued for the 3 weeks. Then I overheard a conversation between Kumar and Master. Kumar and Master. Mukunda is impossible. The boy said, "You made me supervisor, yet the other go to him and obey him. That's why I assign him to the kitchen and you to know the parlor. So you might come to realize that a worldly leader has the desire to serve, not to dominate." Sri Yukteswar's withering tones were new to Kumar. You wanted Mukunda's positions, but could not maintain it by merit. Return now to your earlier work at Cook's Assigns. After this humbling incident, Master resumed toward Kumar a former attitude of unwanted unwanted individuals who may solve the mystery of attraction. In Kumar, our Guru discovered a charming fount, one, however, that did not spirit for the fellow disciplines. Thought the new boy was obviously Shri Yukteswar's favorite. I felt no dismays. Personal idiosyncrasies uh, possessed even by master lead a rich complicity to the pattern of my life. My nature is seldom commanded by a detail. I was skiing from Sri Yukteswar's a higher benefit that then outward presides. Kumar spoke venomously to me one day without reason. I was deeply hurt. Your head is swelling to the bursting point. I added, a warning was truth I felt intuitively. Unless you mend your ways, someday you will be asked to leave this ashram. Laughing scarcely, Kumar repeated my remark to your guru, who had just entered the room. Who had just entered the room. Fully expecting to be the scolded, I retreated meekly to a corner. Maybe Mukunda is right. Master's reply to the boy came with unusual coldness. A year later, Kumar set out for a visit to his childhood home. He ignored the quiet disapprovals of Sri Yukteswar, who never authoritatively controlled his discipline's movements. One on on the boys return to Serampore in a few months. A change was unpleasantly apparent. Gone was the saltly Kumar with a serenely glowing face, only an undisguised, peasant stood before us, one who had lately acquired a number of evil habits. Master summoned me and brokenly discussed the face that the boy was now unsuited to the monastic's hermitage life. Mukunda, I will leave it to you to instruct Kumar to leave the ashrams tomorrow. I can't do it. Tears stood in Sri Yukteswar's eyes, but he controlled himself quickly. The boy would never have fallen to these depths had he listened to me and not gone away to mix with undescribable companies. He has rejected my pretensions and my pretensions. The callous words must be his guru still. Kumar's departure brought me no illusions. Sadly, I wondered how one with the power to win a master's love could rarely respond to worldly illusioned enjoyment of wine and sex are rooted in the natural man to appreciate them. One requires no no delicately no no delicacy of perceptions. Sense whiles are comparable to the evergreen oleander, fragrant with its rosy colored flavor. Every part of the plants is a poisonous. The land of healing lies within, radiant with the happiness that is blindly sought in the thousands outer direction. Keen intelligence is two-edged, Master one remarked in reference to Kumar's brilliant mind. It may be used constructively or destructively, like a knife, either to cut the boil if ignorance, or or to or to discap or to discapitate oneself. Intelligence is a rightly guide only after the mind has acknowledged the the incapability the the instability, of spiritual law. My Guru mixed freely with men and women disciples, treating all as his children, perceiving their soul equality. He made no distinction and no destination, and showed no partially. partially. In sleep, you do not know whatever you are, a man or a woman, he said, just as a man. Uh, Impersonating a woman does not become one, so the soul, uh, impersonating, both man and woman, remains changeless. The soul is the immutable, uh, unqualified image of God. Shri Yukteswar never avoided or blamed woman as the cause of man's downfall. He pointed out the woman to have to have to face temptations from the opposite sex. I once asked my master why a great ancient sant had called woman to the door to hell. The door to hell. A girl must have proved very troublesome to his peace of mind in his early life. My Guru answered caustically, casuistically, otherwise he would have denounced not women but some imperfection and imperfections in his own self-control. If a visitor dared to relate a suggestive story in the hermitage, master would maintain an unresponsive silence. Do not allow yourself to be thrashed by the provoking whips of a beautiful face. He told the disciplines, how can sense self enjoy the world, its subtle flavors escape them while they grow in primal mood. All nice discriminations are lost to the man of element lusts. Students seeking to escape from the Maya indicated sex delusions received from Sri Yukteswar's patience and understanding consuels. Just as hunger, not greed, has a legitimate purpose, so the sexual instinct has been implemented by nature slowly for the propagations of the species, not for the kinding of instabling long links. He said, destroying wrong desires now. Otherwise, they will remain with you after the astral body as has been separated from its physical casing. Even when the flesh is weak, the mind should be consistently restrained. If temptations assails you with cruel force, overcome it by impressional analysis and indomitable will. Every natural patience can be masterable. Convince your powers. Be like the capricious ocean, absorbing, quieting all the tributary rivers of the sense, daily events, sense yearningly and yearnings, shape your inner peace. They are like opening in a reventure that permit vital water to be washed in the desert soil of a materialism. The forceful actively impulse of wrong desire is the greatest enemy to the happiness of men. Romian, in the words as a lion of self-control, don't the frogs of sense weakness kick you around. A true devotee, is finally freed from all instinctively and instinctive compulsions. He transforms his need for human efficiency into aspirations for God alone. A love solarity because omnipresent. Shri Yukteswar's mother lived in the Rana Mahal district of Banaras. where I had first visited my Guru. Gracious and kindly, she was yet a woman of very decided opinions. I stood on her balcony one day and watched mother and soon talking together in his quaint, sensible way. Master was trying to convince her about something. He was apparently unsuccessful, for he shook her head with great vigor. Nay, 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 my son, go away now. Your wise words are not for me. I am not your discipline. Sri Yukteswar's backhand, way without, uh, way without further argument, like a scolded child. I was touched at his great respect for his mother even in her unreasonable moods. She saw him only as her little boy, not as a sage. There was a charm about the trifling incident. It supplied a sidelight of my guru's unusual nature, inwardly humble, and outwardly undeniable. So our story, that's we continue in next video. So thank you.